come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por
We
favor,
invite you, if
manténganse
you
alejados
dare,
de las
to
puertas.
visit tonight's episode in Twista, in this elevated travel doorless chamber.
Hello and welcome to Miles from Main Street, your Far From Disney podcast. My name is Mikhailo.
And I'm Brian.
And we're here to talk about Disney World,
But especially coping away from Disney.
which we know a lot about being from the Midwest. Here at Miles from Main Street, our preferred travel agency is Magical Vacations by Kimberly. Kimberly is a Disney expert and can handle all of your Disney planning needs. She can also plan Universal and all major cruise lines. Contact Kimberly at magicalvacationsbykimberly@yahoo.com.
And find her on Facebook and Instagram under Magical Vacations by Kimberly.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we've got the guys from All Aboard. They're a podcast. They're more of a Disneyland-centric podcast. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yep, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Okay, yeah, I'm Jungle Cruiser, as I know on the show, or Corey in real life. Yep, I'm one of the hosts of the All Aboard podcast. Thanks for having us on, like we said.
Yeah, I'm Ryan, or Hattie on the show. Yeah, it's super exciting to be on and have a little Disney World, Disneyland discussion.
And I'm Joe. I'll go by Yoho Joe here. And yeah, been a long time Disneyland fan and fan of Walt Disney World also. And don't let Corey fool you. This is his brainchild, so he is more than just a host. He is the founder of everything.
For sure, yeah, we're super happy to have you guys on, and we love our Disney World, but Disneyland is also something that we're always interested in too. So having you guys on to talk about Disneyland is definitely pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to dig into this and see what kind of see where we go with this one.
Nice. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I was going through one of the Facebook groups, and one of you posted on there you wanted a guest, and we were all about that too on our end. So it's when I saw that, this is Jungle Cruiser, Corey, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna message him and see what he's got going on. And like I said, we're always willing to be a guest on somebody else's show, and we love having guests on our show. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad you saw that post, and we can talk tonight.
Yeah, something we like to talk about too is kind of like the social media aspect of being a Disney fan, and that goes from Disney World to Disneyland too, because a lot of that stuff is interchangeable, and so that's so cool that we were able to kind of connect on those platforms and stuff like that. I know that's something that's pretty important to us, not being able to be close to a Disney park at all. We're stuck up here in Wisconsin, so it's pretty difficult to get ourselves out to a Disney park. So using social media is pretty important to us, and we like to be able to have those connections too. So yeah, awesome. Thank you guys for doing this. Definitely. So a big part about this show, we'd like to kind of talk about Disneyland and your experiences. So probably the first question we have is, just kind of blanket, like how'd you guys get started with Disneyland and your fandom and stuff like that?
Go ahead, Yoho Joe. You the seasoned veteran.
I'm the old guy of the.
I'll word it like that.
So, well, I've been going as long as I can remember. I am in my early 40s, and I've been going since I've been in diapers, and I've never outgrown Disneyland or being a Disney fan in general. And even when you kind of hit that junior high school age, and it's not cool to wear a Mickey Mouse T-shirt at school and stuff, but I was still that guy. A lot of Donald Duck too, but yeah, it's just one of those things that I've always been a big fan of. History of growing up watching the old reruns of like Walt Disney Presents and World of Color and stuff on the good days of Disney Channel, and Even when I moved up to Oregon, I tried to get down to the parks as much as I could. And but yeah, just long time fan, and it's not stopping anytime soon.
And you've been on both coasts now, right?
Yes. I've been at Disney World. This past January was my 4th time there, and I think my first time was 2010. So, I've been going there. I don't say regularly, but more than I ever thought I would be at this point. But I really do enjoy Walt Disney World, and hoping to get back there for the 50th and hopefully the holidays too.
I'll go next. I've been going to the park since I was a kid too. My first trip was '99 to Disneyland. And I'm kind of like the same as Joey. Was just a kid that never grew out of it, and not going to grow out of it ever. So, and then I just I was big into listening to podcasts, and then I kind of weaseled my way into being a regular guest on All Aboard, and then I got hooked up with Joey, and we have another show, and I just love all of it. So yeah, it's just like it's like home. So Disney's just home, and planning my first trip for Disney World in June. So hopefully I can get out of Canada by then. So yeah, a little lockdown up here, but I'll find a way out. So yeah.
I'll go next. I've been going since I was about 5, so I guess give or take around the same age as Joey. And I always loved the park. And then there was a time in my life, I always talk about this on the show, from 96 to 2003. I just didn't go to the park. I didn't have anyone to go with. I didn't really think about the park. And I actually liked another theme park better. I was a teenager, and I went back in 2003 and absolutely fell in love with the park. And they didn't even have, a lot of the attractions they have now. And I still, had a great time. And I've gone back to the park at least once, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 times a year. For the 50th, I went 3 times. So every year up until 2020, when, we had to stop. So our last trip, all the 3 of us was together anyway, was 2019. The very end of 2019, we got to go and do like what we didn't know then it was our last hurrah, but ended up being at least mine for now, until we get the park open again. And that's why Joey went to Disney World. He was he needed that fix, and he flew across the country. But that's kind of how our All Aboard podcast started back up. I lost my other host. He didn't he had a family, just like me, why I stopped doing it. And that 2019 trip, got us it sparked my interest. It was like, man, these other guys, it was like a podcast meetup. They were doing their show. They still are. And another show was there. And one of our huge listeners, he was there. And we kept talking about it, hey, we're here with the Disney Universe crew and Leaving Today podcast and the All Aboard crew. And it's like, we're not really doing that anymore. And then it was like, maybe we should, and we were kind of waiting for the pandemic to end. We were talking about it in like February, March, and finally in May, we're like, it's not going away anytime soon, guys. Let's just do it. And we've been doing it again since May. So, and it's going strong.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. So our podcast kind of got started that same way, where Brian and I were actually we're kind of related to each other, and so we kind of knew about each other, and we met up at one point. I was out visiting my sister, and we went to I think it was like lunch together. And one of us mentioned Disney, and we just kind of started talking about Disney. And so we kind of knew about each other. We knew that we both had that same interest. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic hit, and we had been talking back and forth about Disney. And we actually had a Zoom call where we were just like, let's just talk about Disney for a while. And it went so well that like literally the next time we wanted to do a Zoom call, we just turned it into a podcast. And so it's definitely been kind of it's been a way to kind of get through everything with this pandemic and everything, that we've used this podcast to like kind of like get ourselves through everything and feel better about what's going on. And it definitely started like that, and now it's gotten a little bit of legs, and we've had at least 25 episodes. I think this is 26, 27. I don't even know now. But yeah, that's kind of how we got started. We just knew that we both really enjoyed Disney, and just kind of jumped on it. And we're still pretty fresh. I know you guys have been doing this for a couple years now, and that's kind of like that's something we aspire to be able to do, and we hope that we get there. And so we're still kind of trying to like get our feet wet with everything. But yeah, I'm pretty happy where it's going now, and I'm happy to have another podcast on who has that same kind of fandom as we do.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, like, you guys are just starting out, but the show could last as long as you want it to, because Disneyland, Disney World, Disney in general just doesn't run out of content. We're doing a reboot, and all of the attractions we're talking about now, me and these two guys, is stuff we already talked about in the original run, but we're doing it in a different kind of spin, like slightly different, just to call it a reboot. And like I said, just if you run out of content, just start over. I don't know.
Yeah, but as they keep opening things up, it's giving you more and more to talk about. So
Of course, yep. Yeah.
you guys got Avengers Campus coming out there, something that we probably won't be able to see around at Disney World. So that's going to make me want to have to run out there too. So you guys excited for that?
I'll let you guys take that away.
Go ahead, Eddie.
I'm not really, just because it seems like the way they're doing the rides are like a Universal Studios type. Like I feel like Spider-Man's going to be like Transformers, and if I want to ride, like that's just like a Universal type ride to me. And I love Universal, but there's a reason I spend 1 day at Universal and 5 days at Disneyland. So I don't know. I'm not personally not a fan of those rides, and the way it sounds like they're doing the other ride. I forget what it's called. It's not opening for a while, but it seems like they're doing it like the Falcon ride, Smuggler's Run, and I'm not a fan of Smuggler's Run, even though I'm a crazy Star Wars fan, just because it feels very Universal Studios with the screen. Like I like my animatronics and my dark rides and stuff like that. So I'm excited for the food because I love shawarma. Other than that, I'm not very excited, unfortunately. Like I'd love a dark ride Spider-Man, like a Spider-Man dark ride. Sorry, I said that backwards. Like that sounds super cool. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to it, but I'll go and I'll still enjoy it, but I'd rather the rides be something different. But Joey, I feel like you're on the opposite side.
I'm the guy that's still, like I said, I'm the old guy of the group, and I still feel like I'm 12 sometimes. So I'm really easy to please, and I'm really excited. I'm sure they're going to be a little bit higher quality than Universal.
It's hard to say that word, isn't it?
I mean, I did do like the Transformers and stuff, and it's like Universal's big trick is little water in the face. But after seeing what they've done with the Rise of the Resistance, phenomenal attraction. And even when I was over in Florida, it was able to ride a Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway. That was mind blowing. That knocked me off my socks, because I didn't even watch any videos on that. And so when I was able to experience it, it was totally different when I thought. And so I think, well, the little bit the stuff they brought up about the web slingers and the Quinjet ride is still we don't know very much about it. So I'm at that point right now with what Disney gives us. I'm like, all right, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, because to me, they've been knocking it out of the park since Cars Land. Then even the Snow White Mine Train over in Florida, then Avatar, Pandora was really cool, and of course Galaxy's Edge. So I'm sure they'll these rides will be really attraction. Sorry, will be pretty awesome.
Well, it took us no time at all to start comparing the two parks. So we might as well get there. And one of the things we like to tell stories on here because a lot of Disney is just experiences and how you've experienced the park. And my one time out at Disneyland, one of my favorite rides at Magic Kingdom in Disney World is Space Mountain, and the Space Mountain in Land just knocked my socks off when I was out there. The Space Mountain in World, it just kind of feels classic. But this, I feel like the Space Mountain out in Disneyland has been plussed a little bit. It has that kind of like Star Wars overlay, and just kind of everything about that, all the way down to like the queue, seemed really unique. And that was the first thing that I went on. And so I would have to say, the Space Mountain out in Disneyland, I would give that a leg up from the Space Mountain in Disney World.
I agree.
I thought they were like carbon copies of each other. I was not aware that they were different.
Oh yeah, they're way different.
Yeah, and I've always said I've said it on this show or our show plenty of times that I've always felt when I rode Space Mountain in Florida, because that's one of my favorites at Disneyland, and but it's something I've been going on since I was a kid, and the music and everything's so cool. Then I get on the one in Florida, I'm like, all right, this is really kind of wonky, but I really deep down believe it's the same track or very similar to the Matterhorn track, which it's an old fun ride, but it's still really jerky and and stuff. So, yeah, so I'm like, I think that's what it is, but I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the one in World. I mean, I love it because it's I've been going to World since I was a little kid, and so I love it there, and it's that kind of nostalgia going on these rides, and I feel like the one in World just hasn't been updated like since it was put in, and honestly, with me saying that, I still love that ride. But the way that they've updated the one in Land, with that Star Wars overlay and everything is just so cool. And so I think that's kind of what they got going on there is that the one in World, they really haven't touched that much, and the one in Land, they've touched a lot. And I kind of get that feeling from a lot of stuff in Land, and it kind of makes me think maybe it's because that park is so close to headquarters for Disney. So it's kind of not that it's always on their mind, but it's like in their backyard. So I feel like they will kind of do that a little bit more with rides. Kind of moving over to Haunted Mansion, that's another one that kind of has that will have an overlay sometimes with that the Halloween overlay that they put on there. And honestly, I mean, I was there while that was going on with Jack Skellington and Nightmare Before Christmas, and that was one that actually I thought could have done better with just the regular Haunted Mansion. So I've never been on the Disneyland Haunted Mansion by itself. I've only seen the overlay, but I wasn't a huge fan of that.
Yeah, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I am. So unfortunately, like Haunted Mansion is my favorite ride, and my last like 5 or 6 trips have been Halloween time, and I always miss out. I got it once when I went to Galaxy's Edge opening. I had regular Haunted Mansion, but other than that, and like I'm a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, but like not getting my regular mansion just makes me hate it every single time I'm on it. So, and you have to ride it because it's Haunted Mansion. So you have to ride it because, it's just how it goes, but it's just, no, it's very unneeded. They can just have its own small, if they really that many people love Nightmare, they could just have its own small ride and take out poo because no one goes on poo. So
Well, not at Disneyland, right? But Pooh is a big attraction at Disney World, so I've heard. It's way bigger than it is at Disneyland.
oh really?
Yeah, it's definitely a bigger ride out in land. Um, but yeah, or out in world. But yeah, I mean, I feel the exact same way about Haunted Mansion. Where I mean, and the overlay is cool. But I'm right there with you. Where Haunted Mansion at Magic Kingdom and World it's my favorite ride, like hands down. And so I guess I just felt a little like I was missing out on that classic attraction when I was out there in land. And same thing where I love Nightmare Before Christmas. But yeah, it's just I mean, it kind of feels forced. I don't know.
Well, hopefully this year they don't do the flip because I'm planning a December trip, so I'm hoping they just keep it for this first like year that they're reopened. So I'm hoping.
Yeah. I like the overlay, but I think it's had its it's done its time. It's really good, but you can't top the original attraction, the original story, and both parks are really good. I would have liked for you to see just slight differences that would have been like, oh, that's at Disneyland you're walking through this area, but you're already in the Doom buggy in this area in Florida, and you're just
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And I love the effects that they added in the mansion in Walt Disney World. That endless staircase is still one of my favorite additions that they did. That's so cool. But so I was kind of hoping that because that's like where you board the Doom buggies at Disneyland is like where that room would be, I think, and it'd be perfect for it. But who knows?
Yeah, so another one kind of like that, and these are all kind of classic attractions out there in Disneyland. Another one we can talk about is Pirates. And this is another one where I would say the Pirates in Land I would put over the Pirates in World. And honestly, this is because of the cavern scene. You kind of make your way through the caverns, and honestly, for me, it made more sense seeing that scene and then seeing the first Pirates of the Caribbean, because the Pirates in World, you kind of go through a couple scenes, it kind of sets you up for everything, and then you're right in there in that firefight. But in World, you kind of go through a couple scenes and then you're in some caverns and stuff like that. I thought that was so cool going through that. It seems like a much bigger ride than they have in World. And I know that was kind of jumping into a history part. That was because in World, they weren't originally going to put that ride into World. They were going to expand on I think it was like Frontierland. They were going to make like Thunder Mesa and stuff like that. But the people in Florida were just clamoring for Pirates of the Caribbean. And so they threw one in there. Not that they just threw it in without thinking, but that's kind of what happened is they threw that ride in there because people were wanting that ride. And so it was cool to, and for me, to a Disney fan, to be able to go to land and kind of see the first iteration of these rides, especially riding through that ride and seeing the detail and everything that was put into that ride, and even thinking that ride is better than a ride that I see at Disney World. It's I mean, it's just blasphemy to somebody like me who loves these parks. But it was, I mean, it felt weird to go through a ride like that and have something that I loved so much out in World be so different in land. But I really enjoyed it in having that kind of like history aspect of like, this was probably one of the last rides that Walt looked over and stuff like that. Really enjoyed that.
And you guys don't have the smell out there, right?
Are you talking about the water smell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the water in World, it's not like straight chlorine. It's I can't remember what it's called.
The
But
musty water smell is what we have in
yeah,
Florida.
we have a different kind of smell.
Okay.
I love that smell.
It's still a pirate must.
That's the best smell at the park, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if
Really
I
is.
walked into Pirates in Florida and I don't get hit in the face with that smell, like it would take me out of it.
Are you gonna leave the park if that happens?
Maybe we'll have to see.
Are we talking about the same smell here, or
Yeah, like
I
that
haven't been-
water. I
okay?
think that water, misty, musty, whatever. It has a similar smell when you first walk into the park when it first opens. So I know they steamed the concrete every night when they were open, but it has that like that fresh, I don't know, that fresh water. It's musty still, but it's Pirates. I actually bought a candle because it was called Flume. It was based on that, and it smelled like burning plastic. So like as if they took the smell from the firefight and put it into a candle, and that didn't come out right.
Not the water.
Yeah, I think
just did all right.
I think there's something different about land water or world water because they don't use like straight chlorine. I can't remember the name of it, but that's kind of what they put in those. I've bought those
Bromine. Are you talking about
bromine. Yeah, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They have it like
that's
in the
that
water
smell.
there. I don't know if it's in the water in California. I haven't been out there, but when I even go to take a shower, I'm sticking my nose up to the water. It's like I'm weird. I know, but love that
The
smell.
water in LA is terrible, so it'll get on you. But the pirate water, yeah, it has that little must when you walk right in that little entrance. But
That and that entrance is I love that. We don't really have that in World. We just kind of like walk in and we've got like a themed entrance and everything. And that was really cool because the queue at Pirates in Land is way different. Because in World we kind of like go through all these different areas and stuff like that and then get to the front of the ride. And I feel like at Land you just kind of like go through a queue and then you get to the front of the ride and like you're there. Yeah. So
I always thought it was kind of cool the first time I went to Florida, and it was like, oh, we're in the I forget what it's called, but like the Spanish fort or the whatever it's called.
yeah.
So you're kind of like in the back door to that. This is how you get onto the attraction, and you see all the weapons and stuff. So it was like really trippy because like you say, you just kind of do a couple of loops at Disneyland, then you're in, and this one you're going through a full like a Spanish fort or something. So, but I love the way they do the sign outside with the crow's nest skeleton with a sail says Pirates of the Caribbean. So I think that's super awesome.
Yeah, so Disneyland has a boatload of history, and that's something that Brian and I really enjoy. And I'm sure when I was down at Disney, I was looking for all those little tiny nods to Walt and the history about the park. And that's something that I know Brian is really into. And is that something that you guys kind of think about when you guys are in the park and kind of like this was the first park, especially with Land itself, kind of going in there and knowing that Walt was there and kind of the history of everything?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Every visit.
Yeah, I think Joey, you do this too. Corey, I'm not sure about you, but I know I've talked to Joey about this. But say a little good morning and good night to the light above the firehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's I've been up there on the tour, so you get really emotional up there. I was just bawling like the second I walked in, and I was alone in this like group of people, and everyone thought I was crazy because it was like a bunch of like foreigners that didn't really like know what was going on, but like they're just there on a tour, and there's just like me. I was like a 15-year-old just bawling my eyes out. So yeah, it's pretty emotional up there.
You're a foreigner from Canada.
Yeah, but I identify as an American. Okay, so
So yeah, every 4 years, usually on my as I'm leaving on my final visit of that particular trip, I'll either do a little tip of the hat, at the firehouse, or little something on the way out. But it's always the as I'm leaving that particular trip. But one of my favorite things to do is like, especially go to like the Enchanted Tiki room, and always stand everybody after everybody clears out, like always stand under Jose, because there's some famous pictures of Walt there, and even like the steps by the train station, and you can always feel. And people tell me I'm weird, and I'm kind of going back to the comparison real quick, but every time you go to Disneyland, you always feel kind of like that spirit of Walt in the park, no matter where you're at. And the first time I went to Magic Kingdom, I was so excited, and I'm like, dude, this is really cool. Cinderella's castle's huge, but I didn't feel that same feeling. And so and nothing against Magic Kingdom, is just you literally feel the Walt at Disneyland every time. It's really cool.
That's exciting. When Michaela started talking about this, the firehouse hit my head right away, and it was like I would have to do something, and every time I walk in and out, a nod or tip of the hat, whatever you guys do. So I'm glad to hear other people are thinking the same thing.
It's funny when I was there, I had already I do this a lot, even when I go to the Magic Kingdom, where I just kind of run through Main Street and get to wherever I'm going. And I'm pretty sure I made a beeline to Space Mountain when I first went to land. But I kind of made my way back to Main Street and back to the firehouse. And that's actually, the firehouse is where you can get all your pins. And I had been going to Disney World since I was a little kid. So I had never had a first time pin. And that's where they have those. And so I remember kind of like making my way in there and being like, oh, this is where you get the pins, and picking up that pin and getting really excited, and then kind of realizing where I was and being like, oh my God. Because in World, you can't really walk into that firehouse. And in Land, you can walk in the firehouse and like grab those pins, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like there's a apartment where Walt Disney was like right above me. So that was one thing when I was in Land that, especially with the history aspect, kind of like really hit me. I didn't do anything special other than grab a pin and like almost start to cry. But yeah, that's it's one of those things that like really like it was really special to me. And yeah, I think the next time I get there, I'll have to do something even more special. Because of course I want to get out to Disneyland again, and experience that again.
Sorry,
Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, like, what are the areas in the park are you guys paying attention to for, kind of where Walt's been, or what is significant?
Go ahead. I was going to say,
Main Street is number one. The Golden Horseshoe in Frontierland's a big one. I guess Tomorrowland a little bit. I've seen a lot of pictures and videos of him like riding his bike through Tomorrowland when it was kind of, I think, being built or like just finished being built. And then I think about him on Pirates a lot just because that was the last project, right? He worked on, I think so.
Right, yep. Don't forget about the main attraction, man. The railroad.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say the railroad, and especially, like I said, the steps leading up to it. Because one thing I love is a couple years ago, there was this photographer artist was superimposing pictures of Walt and had him like on a bench in Main Street, but then would have a picture from like nowadays next to it. And same thing with the. So I always like to stand around the Main Street station. Like I said, the Tiki Room is always a big one. Jungle Cruise, Fantasyland, but I always forget about this, but I've heard and if anybody knows about this, let me know. But around the corner of the fire station and the corner of the Emporium, where they kind of have the backstage area, I always hear some people say that they can actually smell cigarette smoke in that little corner there. So
I
I don't know
would
if that's
be.
an urban legend or
That would be kind of cool, actually. Like the secret nod.
yeah, I don't know.
Or
Wow.
or I mean like kind of a ghost aura. Because I know that Walt smoked and it was something that he didn't like, and that he didn't let people know that he did it, and he wouldn't do it in front of people. But yeah, that's interesting. That's like a ghost hunters type thing.
Yeah, it is. So, like I said, I don't know if it's just an urban legend or somebody's like, oh, back there, that was the little backstage from like Carnation Cafe and Jungle Cruise, and that used to be the old employee smoking section. So, there's 60 plus years, you don't know, what's turned into truth or not. So
That's kind of like one of those the urban legend that there's a basketball court in Matterhorn.
And that's true.
that is true.
Yeah, there's one there.
Yeah.
It was proven on the Imagineering story on Disney Plus.
Or Snopes.com, whatever.
Oh yeah, them too.
Before Bob Gurr shot his 10th try, he finally made one. No, I'm just joking. I don't know how many tries he took.
Yeah, so a lot of history, something that we're really into, and something else. They actually have another park, which is actually right there, and that's something that I think we've talked about this before, where with Disneyland being so close, it's just a park that's kissing each other. They're right next to each other. California Adventure. I kind of wanted to get your guys' take on California Adventure, and kind of the history of it. And I know that it wasn't too awesome when it first opened. And as somebody who never experienced it, I have never literally experienced it. Kind of want to get your guys' take on that.
Yeah, we actually did a whole episode on it, because it had its 20-year anniversary, and we did kind of go over the history of it. And Joey broke it down pretty good. Like the park, he's talked about this before in our podcast, where the park started off as a sleeper. I don't know, the attendance wasn't there, but it was, what would you call it, Joey? A postcard of California.
Yeah,
that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, so originally back in the day when like Eisner was still running the company, and they always wanted that second gate. So there's different projects coming up around. In Virginia, they're planning that Disney's America Park. That never happened. And for years they wanted to do a West Coast version of Epcot.
Westcott.
Yes, that never happened. And they're even going to do like a sea park in Long Beach. And so basically, I forgot exactly the story, but it just came like, well, so many people come to California but don't get to try, Napa Valley or San Francisco, or they just go to Disneyland. So let's bring California into the old Disneyland parking lot, basically. And so even the old original entrance was supposed to be kind of like you're walking into a postcard of California. So the monorail track was a replica of the Golden Gate Bridge. They had all these just crazy, like beachy and kind of like 60s style art as you're walking in. And even in front of the turnstiles, they had these giant California letters, which, Corey and Ryan were able to take pictures with letters of their name because, being Joey, I never had it. But little fun fact, once they did the giant refurbishment and expansion of like Buena Vista Street, which comes out into the Esplanade, they had to move those letters out. So Disney actually donated them. I live in Sacramento, and over here is the Cal Expo, which is the where they have the state fair, a bunch of like horse tracks. A soccer team plays out here, so they donated them to Cal Expo, and so they get enjoyed, and people know that they're the letters from Disneyland. But basically, fast forward, they did the park. They did the beach, Paradise Pier, and everything, Hollywood. But it just had no Disney into the park and was kind of a failure. It was only getting about like 10,000, 15,000 people a day. So that's when they did the big 8-year reboot. And now I think it's a great park now. And I know Ryan still doesn't really care for it a whole lot sometimes, but it's got its moments. And I like that you can, I like to enjoy my adult beverages. So I like you could do that at that park. But
Not that I don't like. I like it, but it's still like a half-day park, and I'm not a big fan of alcohol in the park. And I know Disney World's like a whole different thing with Epcot, and that's like a big part of it. But yeah, I'm not a fan of alcohol in the parks, and it's not a full day park to me yet. Like Disneyland, you can spend like 2 straight days, and then you could do half a day at DCA, and then go back to Disneyland. But yeah, it's not like I hate it, but it's like
That'll change when you have kids, Ryan. I
never
will.
having kids.
No, yeah, but just if you do, it will change.
Yeah, and they took out it's a Bug's Land, and it's tough to be a bug was one of my favorite things. So a little salty. But yeah,
they
no,
replaced it with Ant-Man.
Pardon?
But they replaced Bug's Land with Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And see now why he doesn't like Avengers Campus coming into.
Yeah.
One thing about Avengers Campus I forgot to say that I'm really excited for is that Spider-Man animatronic that's supposed to be flipping over the buildings.
Yeah.
We'll see
I
how long
saw that.
lasts.
That looks so cool.
Yeah. I can't. I mean, yeah, it's going to be. It's supposed to say, from what I heard. I mean, they even have like Tom Holland his voiceover and just, woo, yeah. That'll be. That's going to be pretty cool.
Tom Holland can jump over buildings and shout spoilers at us.
Yeah, exactly.
So when we were on a trip at Disney World, we ran into a couple that had been going to Disneyland forever. And so I just said, well, what do you think? It was their first trip to Disney World. What do you think? And they're just like, I can't believe how spread out it is, like how big everything is. So I guess I struggle with getting that in my head when I'm thinking about Disneyland, like how tight and small it is. And you guys, I'm sorry, Ryan, I know you haven't been there quite yet, but you guys have been to both its sides and kind of know the differences. Is it that big of a difference?
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I mean, literally on one of the sides where you enter Disneyland or the resort, well, one side's a hotel in downtown Disney, then the other side, literally across the street, is Denny's and Best Western, and these little like cheap Vegas versions of the hotels strip surrounding Disneyland. And like I said, I've been to Disney World 4 times, and I have not left property. And just riding the shuttles and the monorail and the new Skyliner, it's like, man, just I mean, I've been in San Francisco a bunch of times, and knowing that this resort is the size of San Francisco is just blows my mind. When you're in the parks, though, Disneyland and DC do a really good job of, you don't feel like you don't know that across the back of Cars Land is Anaheim. I mean, you feel like you're where you're at. So
Awesome.
it's a happiness.
Yeah, that's what. Well, planning my trip and then possibly planning my honeymoon for there in December. It's just like we're looking, and like, yeah, the spread out thing. It's like, okay, well, we could do mansion. Like then we could just go over and do like Tower of Oh wait, no, that's a different park. That's like an hour travel time or something. I probably don't know if it's like that long, but I think that's one thing that's gonna kind of throw me off at Disney World, being in like Magic Kingdom and being like, okay, I'll just like run over quickly and do one other ride, but you can't do that. It seems like at Disney World, like so easily. It's like a 15-minute walk to like, you just want to go do like Radiator Springs after Pirates, but you can't like do that. So, but I'll figure it out. But yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I kind of enjoy. I used to when I was younger, and my family, I wasn't into Disney as much as I am now. And we used to go and we used to get park hoppers and we'd kind of hop around the parks, which is great. Like if that's something that people are into, like by all means do that. But Disney World has really turned into a planning destination. Um, and the way I do parks now, it's kind of more like I'll follow the arc of the park, especially with Magic Kingdom, and it's pretty similar to Land, where it's a hub and spoke park. So you've got all of those different lands, and it's kind of like a little crest around everything, and then you've got Main Street kind of up the middle. Um, and so a lot of what I do in World is based on that, where it's kind of like I'm going through the parks that way, kind of experience everything like that. And so that's kind of what Disney World has turned into. I feel like Disneyland, I've heard this before, is more kind of, not that it's more for locals, but I've definitely heard that before, that locals take up a lot of what's happening at Disneyland, and then Disney World, that's kind of where those vacationers go. So there's a lot less locals going to World than there is Land, which makes a lot of sense.
To change at Disneyland because
Yeah.
no more APs. So I think it's going to be a lot different at Disneyland for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and that's one question that I actually have, because I've seen this. I haven't really read into it that much, mainly because I was thinking about a Land trip this summer when things open back up. But from what I've seen, I think it's only when it opens back up, it's only California residents. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's what the thing said this morning. But also I think A Touch of Disney said that on their thing too. And a lot of out of state people, I was like watching some stuff that they bought tickets without any problem. So so maybe like for the first month, but I don't know. Joey, you're from California. Do you have any insight?
I'm still like 7 hours away. So no. No, I've just heard the 15% right now to California residents, but I mean, things change pretty swiftly. So I would assume maybe it would be California residents until maybe summer would start. I mean, that makes sense. So that's just my guess.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, never mind.
I'm just joking. It's going to happen, but doesn't make sense. They're gonna check your ID at the door.
I think so. Well, because
Or at the gate, I mean.
I had an annual pass and I just told them I lived in California and gave them a random address so I could do the monthly payments, because the dollar would have been like $2,000 Canadian for a yearly pass, and I just don't have that to drop on a pass at once. So I just gave them an address that like a cousin lives in Davis, California, and they didn't ask for any ID. They're just like, okay. Well, so I don't know how strict they're gonna be. So
Right, yeah.
I'm sure pretty stricter now though.
probably.
I mean, you take a sip of a soda. I've been to downtown Disney a few times when they opened, and take a drink of soda or something. They're like, "Put your mask on." It's like, oh.
So I've been to Disney. I was at Disney World probably within like last month, last February. I actually went. My birthday's on the 10th, and so I was able to. It started out as just I was going to go solo, and I ended up going with my brother and sister, who were both really into Disney. And while I was down there, I was kind of able to. I wanted to get there during the COVID stuff, just to kind of see how things were with all of that. And I'd have to say, I mean, mask rules are mask rules. Like, I mean, everybody's got masks on. And I never got yelled at about not having a mask in an area where I was like eating or drinking or something like that. And I never actually saw anybody get scolded for not wearing a mask. I definitely saw people not wearing masks sometimes. But it was, I mean, it wasn't too crazy. I think just like everybody's kind of doing their thing. Everybody's like following the rules, and for the most part, obviously, I think just in the news, just a little bit ago, another Florida resident spit on a Disney employee
I
or
saw that.
something like that. Yeah. So obviously it happens. But while I was down there, I didn't really see anything crazy. I think the biggest difference was during the week while I was down there, it definitely felt like 30% capacity, possibly because it was lower than 30%. But while I was there on the weekend, it felt like normal Disney, like it and everywhere. Like it felt like normal Disney was when I was at Hollywood Studios. It felt like normal Disney when I was at Disney Springs. And I don't know if that was a weekend thing or what, but that was kind of the only time that it felt different, was on the week days where like I don't think there was as many people, but on the weekends it just felt like normal, like I had been there before like that. So
Yeah, see, I really saw that 15% at most of the parks when we were there during the week, except in Galaxy's Edge, because that looked like a normal
yeah.
attendance there. But no, I thought the whole resort did a great job on how they are doing their distancing and doing their rules and everything. And really the mask, I was really kind of like, I don't want to wear this in Florida. It's going to be humid and stuff. But it wasn't. I mean, it is what it is. But once you're at the parks, it's like, okay, I'm at Disney World, yay, you know. So it wasn't too bad. I didn't get a tan line or anything on my face, so I was happy.
Yeah.
What you just said, Joey, reminded me of Stewie from Family Guy. He's in the car and he passed the Disney World sign.
Oh.
Go to Disney World. He just starts flipping out in the car.
Cool. Well, it's getting about that time. I feel like we've talked about some pretty decent topics. We were able to talk about Disney World, Disneyland, some ride things, and we're able to talk about some history and some current events with some COVID. Again, thank you guys from All Aboard Podcast. All of our listeners, go ahead and go check those guys out. Thank you guys for coming on again. We would love to have you guys on a few more times because it was a great time talking to you guys.
Yeah, and likewise, and we'll love to have you guys on our show as well sometime soon.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for the invite. And if you guys ever make it to California and have extra time and love history, I'd also recommend if you could go to the Walt Disney Family Museum in San Francisco. It's amazing. It's still far from Disneyland, but if you have the time, like I said. But thanks
That's
for
a
having
bucket
us.
list of mine.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Corey,
say,
why don't you tell
looks
us-
like Brian.
Yeah. Corey, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
Yeah, we're on Instagram. It's All Aboard Podcast on Instagram. We also have a website called Diz Podcast Family, which features a bunch of other Disney as well. So in our Instagram, you can find our link tree, which links you to all the places you can listen to our podcast as well, which is, Spotify is like one of our main ones, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, where every podcast catcher, you can check us out, whatever works for you.
Great. Yeah,
Awesome.
guys, go and check them out. I've listened to a few of their episodes and they do great stuff over there. So check them out.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Yeah. Thank you guys. And thank you for listening. And we will see you next time on Miles from Main Street. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, please rate us on iTunes and subscribe. Email us at milesfrommainstreetpodcast@gmail.com with any thoughts, and visit us on Facebook under Miles from Main Street. We'll be bringing more to you weekly and look forward to talking to you then.
Until next week, remember,
Some live close,
but most of us don't.
so let's talk about it.